I'm way ahead of your game.
Give
Show number
33?
No, is it 32? I got it wrong yesterday, but
Oh,
I think it's
okay.
32. Oh, I don't know, whatever it is.
Yes.
The people watching
Luckily, I get the numbers
or
right.
listening, they
My
know.
first show was 31. That was
Oh,
2
so
days
this
ago.
must be 33.
This is 33. Perfect.
Hello.
33. Only the 33rd degree Masons know exactly what y'all's up to. You know what I'm saying? And y'all's the only one that knows what they're up to. So.
So Adam is back by popular demand of one. Okay, we can postpone the scan for now. And last night we were having a bit of a comedy hour over dinner as you were retelling some of your adventures.
Well, it wasn't really retelling, but we were reflecting a little bit. And,
Well, that's what retelling is.
we weren't going too far into it. We're just kind of beating around the bush. But
Yeah, well...
talking about the experience and not really what I experienced.
Well, how far have you come in the 6 years? Because it is 6 years since I found Yah, and you were with me when I did. And I have to say, Adam, you have been named after all mankind, and you have been the longest battle, if you like, to get to this point now where you're...
well, it's not...
where you're a treasure.
That's not the way I like to put it. I don't see it as like the longest battle. I just find it as my own refining, right?
Yes.
And I think there's people out there right now that believe in Brian 100% that still have a lot of refining to do, and they don't realize it, and they think they're in the safe niche, and they think they're all sweet, but no, there's still a lot of work to be done. And the way I look at it is that I've always been willing to do the refining, no matter where it's been, no matter what's been doing, or how much I protest. I always knew that there's something to learn along the way. And so I tried to keep my eyes through my eyes of the student, but that's the thing. Just as I thought I had learned something in my life, and that was it. I've got it. Hell's no! I got thrown right back into the depths of hell and my own BS, and just ugh.
So how really is the state of mind, isn't it?
It truly is. It's a state of mind. It's depression. It's anxiety. It's really hard to explain. Honestly, I find it in the mood of depression. But the way it was hitting me, it was almost like hopelessness, being apathetic, having absolutely no faith, even knowing your belief. And it's not even a belief, it's a knowing, but having absolutely no faith behind that. It's really hard to comprehend. And of course, the mental battle, because you're thinking things that you usually don't think, and you're listening to other sides of the spectrum and considering everybody's option, even though you know what the truth is. And it really does your head in. And you're constantly contradicting yourself in everything that you do, and it's almost like a state of schizophrenia. But that's what hell is, and it's basically a never-ending panic attack, one long anxiety attack. Yeah, that's the only way I can describe it.
Now, you said last night that for the first time you felt happy.
Oh yeah.
This latest bout of hellish.
Oh, it wasn't even latest bout of hellish. It was honestly my final shove off the precipice. It was get it right or just fall by the wayside. And that's how I felt. And
well, actually, Yah had said that.
Well, that's...
Yeah, so you're picking up because he said this is the last time.
Yeah, no, I got that, but that's how I felt in my own soul, though. Right? That's it. Didn't need to be said. It didn't need to be reiterated. I felt that, before I was getting kicked out. Before I got kicked out, I just knew there was something wrong. Something that needed definite changing. And with me, man, I was so mentally addicted to cannabis. If I didn't have it, I would go into a panic attack, and I would think that it was because of my own natural state, my own natural being. And partly because I don't address things when I was sober. Whenever I would come into an emotional hiccup, I would always go towards cannabis and whatever I could to take myself away from it, thinking that's the best option, instead of actually addressing it with a sober mind, feeling what I need to feel, and then carrying along with that and learning from it. which is what everybody should be doing here. So what happened this time? Jeez. I call it the final purge. That's all I can really relate it to. And there's a lot of us out there that need that final purge. I was so dependent on so many things, cannabis, cigarettes, just crap. And it really, in the long run, it does nothing for you physically, spiritually, or mentally.
And also, do you think you were dependent upon Claudia emotionally? Was that another dependence?
Yeah, dependence and dependence and more of like an obsession, I guess. Like I still love her with all my heart.
Yes,
right?
of course you do. But it's one thing to be.
Yeah, exactly. I get that. It was like mate, that's just how you are when you're depressed. Like honestly, that whole it's just like a whole dark period of my life, like the past 23 years. It's just
and you're
big,
how
dark
old now?
I'm 23. Yeah, no, seriously.
Just to clarify, Adam was always very different as a child. He would ask some of the gnarliest, in-depth spiritual questions, and I
wanted answers. I wasn't taking no airy fairy BS.
No, well, I didn't give it. I mean, hello, I got into trouble for telling Ali and Aaron, they were 4 and 3. I got into trouble and was held over my head for years, that when they came to me, they were 3 and 4 years old, Mum, please tell us the truth about Santa Claus. Because, that was my holy rolling Christian days in the Pentecostal church and all the rest of it, and it was all about the truth. So I told them the truth. Well, it didn't stop us celebrating, and they appreciated it, they understood the truth, and it was all good. Wow, did I get into trouble though. And it was held over my head. How could you rob them of this, that, and the other? Well, they weren't robbed of it. As a matter of fact, there was the one year in Canada there where there were no Christmas presents at all because we had no money to buy any.
Yeah.
And that, I think it was you that told me it was the best Christmas or the
It was. I remember that vividly. No money for presents. The girls were the only ones that literally had income coming into the house, paying rent, buying our food, and also buying presents for the family. God bless them. Now, I was shielded from this as a child. I never knew any of this, and I always said to my sisters, that was the dumbest thing you could have done, was shield me. You should have been open with me as a kid, let me know the reality of the situation. I would have grown up a lot faster. But that was the best Christmas. I got a t-shirt and a little tech deck. I remember exactly what I got. A t-shirt, and the t-shirt said, "Just be happy, I'm not your kid." And I remember that day vividly, and it was the greatest Christmas. And, Even though having, at such a young age, having to deal with the sight of your dad, stressing and being absolutely torn about not being able to put presents on the tree.
Yeah, but think back to the previous Christmas.
Exactly.
When we didn't have money, that drove me nuts. Anyway, moving right along to now, and 6 years ago when you knew we were looking for God on the earth, body of flesh.
That wasn't 6 years ago. That was.
Well, I know. It
10
was,
years ago.
It was
12 years ago.
It was from 1999 on the earth. Okay, so you're with me.
Yeah.
Well, you have to be with me because you're with Lazarus and I'm Martha, so that's what that was all about. Yeah. And then finally, the night of, you remember it was David Clues that sent the link, and it was your 17th birthday.
It was my 17th birthday.
And you fell asleep.
I fell asleep at 8 o'clock because, I had a 2.5-hour train ride. I was stoned.
Yes.
I got home. And it was a very awkward moment where I get to my Nan's house, and there's Mom, Allie, Paul, Nan, cake. I'm stoned. Yep, going to bed.
So you fell asleep at Nana's, and I went home to Tulip Close. And so I was alone when I got the message from David Clues. There's a fellow in Melbourne saying he's God. Oh my God, I sent you the link. Go and have a look. So into my Hotmail, click, and there it is. I found him. That's him. Hello, Nostradamus 13. I'm the root of Jesse, the offspring of David the bright and morning star. That's me, he says. So that was joy and hallelujah for me. What was it for you?
It was another. At the time, for me, it was just like, oh God, here we go again. Another one. But, like, you know, I was open to it, right? Like,
Yeah.
because I always am.
Because we went through that gnarly
Exactly,
David clues.
exactly.
That was so gnarly.
Like, you gotta understand.
The clues.
Like,
You had the
for
dream.
a kid my age, I was worn so thin with this whole God on the earth thing. I was ready to give it up. So,
But remember the dream.
Brian was like, I remember saying to Mom, I was like, look, the only way I see this working out is God is going to be hilarious. He's going to have a very crude sense of humor. And he's going to be a pot smoker. You know, it's that simple. You know, that's the only way I see it coming through. And so she goes, you know, and she finds Brian. So I'm looking at this guy.
Because David Clues sent me the link.
I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, he's a bit serious. You know, I just rolled my eyes and left Mom to it, and she stayed on the computer, eyes glued to the screen. I just went about my business. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think anything would come of it, right? I just thought, oh, she'll probably make contact, and then, you know, one thing led to another.
Do you remember though the night? Now you may not remember because you were stoned, but do you remember the night we stood in the courtyard? This is before I found him, not too long before I found him.
And
you said something about Malachi. You started to literally shake and say, he is going to be standing here in this courtyard. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
night?
I remember that.
We were
I
literally
remember that.
the Aramaic, Martha and Lazarus once again out there looking at the stars, and you were seeing shooting stars.
Yeah, I was a stubborn son of a gun, and because we haven't found God and I haven't had any of my own divine proof, right, through my own life experiences, we were standing in the courtyard, and I was going, okay, if God's real, show us a shooting star. I'm like, okay, that doesn't count, right? So basically, I'm such a thick-headed person. It took 19 shooting stars, repetitively, one after the other. Like, it wasn't like, you know, within 2-minute gaps. It was like, and it was only after mentally me asking for it, right? And yet I'm denying it every time I see it. I'm going, no. And then after I'm saying, you know, I felt this weird feeling. The wind was swirling in the courtyard, and I just looked around, and I was like, where the hell is Malachi? Because I felt like I was being watched, right? I honestly felt like I was being watched. So I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if a dude rocked up right now. And because he didn't, I was like, it's all bullshit, you know? Like, stars, 19 shooting stars, man, you know, so, you know.
So, all right, I find him, and now, the stars that night, because you stayed the whole night around at your grandmother's house, you'd fallen asleep stoned. So I'd already called Ryan the next morning. The first thing I did was pick up the phone. Hello! Like, you know, been looking for you for all this time. And it was like, he's got to be expecting me. So David Clues, who sent, by that time David's sharing the house, he's a renter. Yeah. And I say to David, he's expecting us. And David starts to get all wonky like this. He was used amazingly, the angel in and out of him. Oh, that was so freaky.
Holy
in and out, in and out.
I think, and yeah, weird.
Totally weird.
Yeah, he thought he was going, it messed his head up so much, he went on Seroquel. He was on 200 milligrams of Seroquel. That's an antipsychotic, psychotropic drug or something.
Yeah.
Basically.
But he was already on stuff, wasn't he?
No. The Seroquel he got thrown on after meeting Mom.
The JCDV part of the.
And after all this stuff starts happening, he's just like, oh God, it's doing me head in. And he started medicating himself out. He gave me one of those pills, and I melted in front of the computer.
Well, but you know what was happening and you had the dream right before you met David or whatever. Remember the dream, the great big warehouse. The shoes you were
Yes, I'm walking through the shoe. I'm walking through, it's called Ultimate Distribution. And I'm walking through the warehouse, and I'm looking at all the shoes, right? And I'm like, oh. And then I go up to it's a DC model, and it's called the Avatar. And it's called the Avatar AV or something. It was called the Avatar AV or AE.
But it was a DC shoe.
It was a DC shoe, yeah. A DC shoe company and Avatar.
Yeah.
And I remember, you know, I pulled them down out of this massive shelf full of all these boxes of shoes. Like, it was like, as I was walking through the warehouse, I wasn't even looking for a certain pair of shoes. I was just walking, stop, turn, grab, put the shoe on, and then looked at it in the mirror, and it was the Avatar shoe, right? One of my favorite shoes, right? And it had the clear sole. right? Clear sole on the bottom of the foot, which is a cool thing, right? But yeah. And then when I told Mom about that, she's like, an Avatar of DC, David Clues, Avatar.
Yeah, well, what happened was, in the dream, you said you put the shoes on, you're standing in front of the mirror, but the mirror was not reflecting the shoes. You would walk a few paces, take the shoes off, you'd look in the mirror, and you would see the shoes on. So to me, I'm thinking on holy ground. Literally, Moses in front of the burning bush, take your shoes off, you're on holy ground.
Yep.
And the avatar, of course, is like God in man. So I'm going, oh my God, God in man. So it was in and out of. It was literally in and out of, and that's what happened.
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. Looking down, seeing the shoes, mirror, nothing.
Yeah. Now the way I still do everybody's head in when I talk about the JC, Jesus Christ, DC, which is David Clues, JC, DC, part of the DVD. Because that, and David Clues, his name, Clues, hello, the Clues.
Y'all's shaking his head behind camera right
He still doesn't get it, I mean, but so much.
Well, to a logical mind.
I know, to a logical mind. That's what I said, logic did not find you, dear. But that was a very intense, ended up being, I think, about 3 months total, very intense time. And you remember how much weight I lost, and because the information was pouring in.
She says the information was pouring in. What happened was she developed a very unhealthy eating disorder, where she literally was like fasting.
Well, I couldn't. But I couldn't eat.
Exactly. There is a point where you stop eating so much that the actual act of eating hurts.
But that was because my mind was literally, seriously, I mean, David talks about his mind being done in. My whole mind and body. Do you know what happened? You remember the night that I went over to that Jewish doctor's house that you ended up...
Yeah,
right. I was there one night.
At Rose Bay.
Rose Bay, the doctor,
Yeah.
that you found all that stuff. Well, I was there one night, Abby. I did not sleep any of that night because the scriptures were going through my head. Now, I'm in a Jewish doctor's house. I wake up and I walk out into his courtyard and I throw up. I physically throw up. And the revelation is going through my mind. I will spew thee out of my mouth. And then the Rose of Sharon, that's another name for Jesus, the Rose of Sharon. In the dream, now it was David Clues' face that comes to me in the dream because he was the dude being used, the angel in and out of David. It was all about the Rose of Sharon and literally smelling, in the dream, smelling the Rose of Sharon. So this was that one night in the doctor's house. You know, I go back to the apartment where David...
That's the one with all the pornography in them.
Yeah, later Adam was there.
And he had multiple passports, and they all had Israeli passports, right? And it just... He was doing something. They were into something wrong.
Yeah. Anyway, but the next day, it was when I went back to the apartment, and you just looked at me, and David just looked at me and said, I'll make you a cup of tea, go out onto the balcony. I was sick, I looked like a skinny cow. It was disgusting. But, listen, this is the amazing part. David walked into the apartment. He got there a little bit after me. Yeah. He walked straight into the kitchen, and he said, I'm doused with rose oil. You know the essential oils one? I'm doused with rose oil. That rose oil really is amazing. I had just drank, and I could smell the Rose of Sharon. He walked straight into the kitchen because he'd gone to see Raymond and she was into the essential oils. And he'd been doused with the rose oil because it's the highest resonation of all the essential oils. It's the rose oil. Anyway, so this is what was going on. Literally, as the paintings, remember the paintings that I did? They were coming alive in the living room of Balmain then. So that was early 2007. And then we leave that apartment, and I have to find a place to live. We end up out in 2 Tulip Close Barrow, hello. And that's where you have the experience, Malachi. Pardon? What's that?
I said that's where the pussycat showed up.
Oh, yeah. So, tell...
The main Coon.
Yeah, so Ya comes our famous...
because I was such a little shit back then, and I'm like, look, I've been through this so many times. If this guy's gonna run through my life, and I'm expecting him to run through me mother, right? Just come in and leave. And so I was like, all right, if he's gonna do this, he's gonna pay for it, right? And so that's what I said to Mom. I was like, that's it. You know, he wants to buy it. He can buy my belief. That's where I'm at with this. So of course Brian hands me the cash, and I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? I got no idea. I ended up going up city and spending the cash on some of the best dope I could find, right? Really killer stuff. Amazing. And so we set up this whole idea that, you know, me and Brian are gonna have a smoke out, and yada yada yada. So, cool. Why not? I roll up a fat dupe. Ryan rocks up, you know, how you going? Blah, blah, blah. Alright, yeah, good man. Start smoking a joint with him. Now, Brian starts reflecting about the first time he smoked pot. Was in a dugout with an Indian in Canada behind the local cop shop. I'm listening to him as I'm smoking. I'm like, thinking in my own mind. I was like, yeah. And a few years after the first time I was smoking in a dugout with an Indian and behind the local cop shop in Steveston. So I'm like, huh. So as you can see in my own mind, I'm thinking God would smoke pot, right? And here he is talking about the first time, his first experiences with cannabis, and it's in a dugout with an Indian behind the local cop shop. I'm thinking about my first experiences with cannabis in the dugout with an Indian behind the local cop shop.
How old were you?
About 46, 47.
How old were you?
I was about, 13, 14, 15, right? And yeah, so hey, we're smoking back and forth. He's handling the joint very well. Like this is a big 2-gram bomber. This is a huge thing. And we're smoking and just small chat. And then the joint finishes, and I go, we're sitting in the back in the courtyard at this point, and I'm going, would you like to come into the shed for a few bongs? And he's like, yeah, okay. And honestly, he was content. He was good. He looked fine.
Now he had already warned me what happens to him.
Yeah, but he seemed fine at that point. Now we go into the garage, into the shed, and sit down. And I'm ready to pack up a bong. And Brian goes, "Oh, what water's in there?" And I go, "Oh, just water." And he's like, "No, put my stuff in it." And at this time, he was bringing over the silver water with a drop of his blood in it, and I'm thinking, okay, fucking kidding me or what? Like, okay, go for it, right? So I pour some water in it, and I pull a couple myself, a couple cones, and then I throw up Brian one, and I go, here you go. And then that's when I just seen the face change. It just suddenly went from, And I passed it to him, and he looked at it, and he was like, this is the most phallic thing I've ever seen in my life. And he's like, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, see that little hole there? That's called the shotgun hole. You gotta cover that too. And he goes, what is this? It looks like a woman's genitalia. It looks like a woman's genitalia. Oh my god, this is the most phallic thing I've ever seen. A woman's genitalia and a phallic symbol here. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, what the fuck has just happened? He hasn't even smoked yet, right? So he gets down to it, he smokes it, and I'm thinking, God, if he's going to smoke that and he's like this already, this is going south pretty quick. Pretty
south, all right.
Oh yeah. So he smokes that one, I smoke a couple more, I pack him another one, he smokes it. He's going on about how my mother's pregnant with twins.
I met her last week.
Right? He's just like, we're saving the world. Your mother's pregnant with twins. Oh, it's a beautiful story. Oh, the phallic woman genitalia. And I'm sitting there going, oh dear Lord. And I flicked on a song, right? And I'm looking at the machete. And I clicked on the song, and the song comes on, and it goes, I'm Jesus in reverse, the son of Satan with the firearm. Like, word to blood, apocalyptic firestorm. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I'll be right back. I went into the kitchen, right? I leave Brian to it, right? And he's laughing as he's going, women genitalia, and walking out. I go into the kitchen. Mom's in the kitchen doing something. I think she's fixing sandwiches.
Preparing something to eat.
Yeah. And I walked up to her and I said, I was very calm about it. Usually I would blow the fuck up. I would go nuts. I'm sorry for the language, but I would drop it. I would go nuts. I'd lose it. So I go up to Mom and I go, tell me honestly.
No, you didn't say, you just looked at me.
I said, are you pregnant?
Are you pregnant?
I said, are you pregnant?
No.
And to my relief, she looked at me like, What was the look you gave me? God, it was...
What planet did you just arrive from? No!
Yes. So when with that, I went, right.
I'm going to my room.
No, I went back into the shed.
Okay.
I went back into the shed, and then I sat down, I calmed down, I stopped looking at the machete and looking at Brian. I looked at Brian, and then he goes, what about this water? Should we drink it? The water? I'm like, no, you don't drink the water. That's mixed with tobacco. That's all the filtered stuff out of the crap that you don't want inside your body. You don't drink the water. And he's just like, and I'm just going, you silly bastard. You silly bastard. So he carries on with all this, and I'm going, oh, yeah. All right. Okay, whatever. And so I can't remember what I did. I ended up walking away for a second, and Brian ended up going into the house, and then I went back into the shed, and I was punching cones, and Brian's gone into the house. And I'm sitting in the shed, and I'm really trying to calm myself down here. I must have went through a gram of pot in about 5 minutes. It's just just really trying to grasp my head around the insanity after dealing with JCDC, part of the DVD. And then now we got Brian Leonard Golightly
Which
Marshall.
led us straight to the real meal deal.
Yeah, and this is my first impression of God. He's sitting in front of me calling things all these, women genitalia. And my mother's pregnant with twins, and it doesn't turn out to be true, and all this crazy stuff that's flying out of his mouth.
That was an ancient thought, wasn't it, babe? A memory.
And
It's
so...
all scripted, don't worry.
So, at this point, I've just gone, oh, fuck, this isn't working. Pot's not helping. I could sit here and smoke the whole lot. It's not going to do shit. I'm going to, you know what? And I never napped during the day until that day. I was like, I'm going to sleep. This is doing my head in. And just when I think it's over, right? I'm just going to walk in. I'm not going to look at anyone. I'm going to walk in, turn left, go to my room, down the hallway, shut it, and wait for this nightmare to be over, okay? Open the sliding door. I just see from the, you open the sliding door, you got the curtain here, and I just see about, from the shoulders back, a body, and it looks like a decapitated head via the curtain. The curtain's the guillotine. And I'm hearing a meowing, but it's like a meowing from a tin can. It's like, and I'm going, and there's Brian, sure enough, head in a bowl, in the curtain, head up against the window, right, and meowing like a cat in the bowl. I just looked at Mom. I just looked at Brian. Case of raw. Went into my bedroom. Trying to forget the whole thing. Now, I'll tell you what. From that point on, he's been able to smoke me underneath the table. That first impression was absolutely just for me. I honestly believe that he handles his pot absolutely fine, but that was just for me because, the shit I had to deal with, folks, seriously, and that I got over, all the stuff that I got over, nobody has an excuse not to believe in Brian. If I can get over that hurdle of all this shit that I've been through in one lifetime, if I can get through that hurdle without once being locked up in an insane asylum and all that nonsense, man, none of you have an issue. Oh, he smokes pot. He can't be crushed. Get over yourself. Oh, he swears. He can't be crushed. Get over yourself. My Lord. You know what? After what I've been through, Brian would be right to come in and kick you in the nuts, and you should still be able to believe in him and be like, yeah, that's God. That's God. He should be able to just come in and...
Smiter, the mighty smiter.
No, not even smite. Just come in and insult your entire family. Alright?
Oh,
just
he
come in
does.
and... No. Just bag everybody out. Come in and insult your entire family and just, make you lose your job and all that nonsense, and you wouldn't have anything above what I got over. So, seriously, folks.
So it wasn't too long after that, was it, that you were sent back to Canada for a bit of time out, wasn't it?
Oh, I wasn't sent back for a bit of a time out.
Well, yes, you were.
Well, yeah, right. But like, I was expecting to be over there for a couple months. I ended up staying for like
9 months, wasn't it? 8 or 9 months.
8 or 9 months.
Gestation.
But I learned a lot over there. That's over there where I learned what do you call it? Like active thinking, putting yourself in other people's shoes, and literally like visualizing walking a mile in somebody else's shoes before but at an instant, just by looking at them. So, and discovering, that we are all God. That was my whole that was the learning experience, that we all are God. And then, of course, that helped when I got back to Australia, because after listening to Brian and his Silver Mind, that's what he was saying. And I was like, that's what I discovered on my own, and I knew that to be true. So I was like, okay, he's onto something here. But honestly, it was in Canada that I also started going into the whole Pallades, and that's, when it, down that rabbit hole.
Yes,
and I exhausted it.
Yes.
I went to the very end of it, until I was like, yeah, this is crap. Everybody, it hasn't been proven. There's no evidence. There's nothing substantial enough for me to feel right about this, right? But I did take what I did take away from it, and that is that we are all God, and we are all one.
All except the Jews.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Themselves Jews and not.
They're soulless.
They're like the devil too.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from there, that was your first impression. So you had time away for 9 months. You still, though, were not a believer, were you?
No.
No. So, but what wise words? Dane said something to you, didn't? At a family gathering, it was about the numbers.
Like whatever the conversation of Brian would come up after that point, it was more like they were little stepping stones, and they weren't even stepping stones. They were little bits of the puzzle, right? That I needed for my life, that I needed, and I was really searching for. And whenever the topic of Brian would come up, that's when one of those bits of puzzles would get thrown in there, and it started happening more and more in abundance, right? And that one with Darnay, basically, because the whole family was bashing me, right? And this is before you even started controversy. This is when they all loved you, right? When they all met him, and they're like, he's brilliant, he's amazing, blah blah blah. So Dara's going. I'm having a conversation with Dara about it. And I'm like, oh, he's not God, it's full of shit. It's mom, she's crazy, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, yeah, I know, Adam, I know what you're saying, I get it. But we did have a mathematician friend of ours. He's like, he's got his professor's doctorate, blah, 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 in mathematicians. And he did the math, and he said it was infallible. It was infallible. It was 100%. Also, you're saying this? You're saying this?
And what's more, that friend said it at a dinner party in front of Ben.
Yeah, exactly, right? But I wasn't at that dinner party.
No, I know that.
She was just telling me straight up.
She told me about it,
Yeah, she told me straight up. She was just like, no, the numbers are right. And I'm like, so what, you're a believer now? So. And, so from that point on, what was it? It was... Well, I had gotten back, and we were living in the Bradman laundry room.
Yeah, and you decided you walked down to the Bradman from that conversation, and I think you'd said to me that you decided that you had to come to terms with this, or Dino was the one that said, "Listen, you've got to come to terms with this," or something, and then told you about that conversation of the. And then, of course, we were...
Well, it was definitely at that point, when you have your aunt, who's, when it comes to that point, that's when having the experiences that are experienced in Canada and the understandings, of course, you're not going to just deny it. You're going to go, okay, there's obviously something here. There's got, even if it's nothing significant, and I might learn something from it, hey, fine. Another example to learn from. And, And also at that point, we were totally into the, colloidal silver that Brian was into.
We're making
and that to me was really brilliant. And, and I respected him on all manners for that as well. I'm like, I don't believe he's Christ, but everything he's doing is absolutely brilliant, 100%.
What you'd expect Jesus to do.
Yes. So yeah, and that also at that point, you know, I was in communication with Shadow, and you know, there's some weird things going on. We didn't really know
yes,
where
the
we
dude
were.
from the army.
Yeah, we really didn't know where we were at that point in time in life, and what was next after that? Was that being
Well,
kicked out,
we quickly disintegrated from there because you
of
got yelled at by Ben, and then
Was
judgment came.
was that honestly, did that cause some tension in the entire family? Did
Well,
that
that's why I
get
told
some-
Oh,
her-
totally. He made a YouTube video about
Not
Ben.
your defence.
Oh,
I
yeah,
destroyed-
yeah.
I destroyed it,
yeah.
man.
Oh, right, that's
Oh
right.
yeah, and that caused tremendous. And then
No,
of course
I
Reno
thought-
was judged.
I thought the actual act of Ben yelling at me was him stirring the shit in the family, saying we gotta get rid of them or whatever. You know what I mean?
No.
So I got rid
No,
of
you've
him?
got to get rid of.
Awesome.
You got to get rid. No, that came because at the same time it was Rena's judgment. Brian made a upload, and because Rena. But anyway, so that went on, and then Ben quickly after, and and of course Yara involved everybody. You know, Quentin
Yes.
Bryce and anybody that she knew, and made the
Absolutely.
YouTube channel in her name. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And so I was staying at Mum's on and off. Anyway, that was the end. The $300, you know, the 30 times 10 pieces of silver to leave kind of thing. So we did. And you chose to come with me. If I was going to be homeless, you would be homeless with me. So the Freedom Wagon became our...
Honestly, I don't think I had any other options, Mom.
Well, they said that you could stay. They told you that, but you chose to go.
I wouldn't stay with them savages, Jesus.
Anyway, so we were homeless, but the plan was to go through the Northern Territory, which we did. So, through all that, now...
But why did I slam your sister? She's the best friend of the Governor General in the country,
Yes,
right?
yes, and I have...
And I'm
Yes,
saying, tell the Governor General what we are doing.
yes, we've
Who
been
I
to the
am
media
and
a
what
couple
we're
of
doing
times,
in
yeah, even
curing cancer and AIDS and everything else.
Yeah.
Now this silly bitch has got cancer herself. She's still too stubborn to ask me how to cure it.
It's all total insanity and doesn't belong in her world as the rest of the world operates.
Well, she sucks up to all the business people.
Well, yes,
Right.
no, totally.
Made a really
John
big
Howard.
impression on me.
Well, exactly. Look at her position. She's the highest ranking woman in the cricket board, right? She's the only highest ranking woman in the cricket board. She's on her knees for every one of those blokes.
Absolutely.
Oh, God. Anyway, disgusting. So we're now in the Northern Territory. Young comes up, and we're going to take the swine flu cure.
We're not now in the Northern Territory. It takes a little bit
Yeah,
to
it took
get
us being
there.
thrown out. And
But being thrown out and spending a night and a few nights on the road. But
Lake Burn Griffin, remember that? We drove
That's
down to
awesome.
Canberra, went through 666 Northbourne Avenue, which is the ABC.
yeah,
Took a movie of it because I'd been there before. After I took all of the information to Quentin Bryce, the Governor General, I got in, past the gate, delivered her with a document like this. That was the background to everything, the swine flu vaccination program, the UN, everything. And we gave her a book, The Straw Man Burners. I wrote a letter to her. And she acknowledged it. She wrote a letter that was dated the 9th of September 2009, handwritten on parchment that was delivered, that I got. So, yeah, that was also when I got fined there. It was $286 on the way, $286 on the way back, fined. And then I wrote to the Chief of Police in Canberra with the same letter. I told them that the crisis returned, he's my husband, you have no authority over me, blah, blah, blah. So they didn't know what to do with it. No, somewhere along the line I just got this letter saying, don't ever drive in the ACT again. And so we end up in the Northern Territory.
ACT for the viewer is Australian Capital Territory, where all the bastards go
Politicians.
to control the world.
Yes.
From there.
Yeah.
That's where all the big computers are.
Underneath are the computer systems to control the world, what's left of it after they decimate it.
Not only that-
Now you know with what they're doing with Fukushima.
Yes.
yeah. Not only that, that's the only place where pornography conventions are absolutely rampant, and also cannabis is legal, and certain drugs are also legal to a certain degree. That's where all the politicians are.
Do you remember your reaction that time?
I went to Canberra once, and
the two of us went down.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to
Yeah.
a gallery or something.
yeah, well, me and Mom and I went to Canberra.
And I dropped you off.
She dropped me off, and I went to the skate park, and I went through that entire town, and I felt absolutely sick to my stomach. I felt like shit the entire day. I felt like, I knew what it was. I knew exactly what it was. I knew it was the architect and the layout of the land and the forces and the energy of it was just so.
But the point is that you phoned me within a very short time. It was only about half an hour that I dropped you off. You phoned me and said, "Get me out of here before I do something." So I left. We left because you were feeling really sick, angry. You were feeling angry.
I almost caused an accident. I was so pissed off.
Yeah.
You know, I was so angry. I almost caused an accident. This poor Asian lady in her car. You know, like she was driving down the highway, basically, or not the highway, but the causeway, and it's like 70, 80, and like literally she's like standing out and stood in front of her car. Like I stood in front of her car to make her, and she was like, you know, and I was like, oh, this is not good. No, this is really not good. Yeah, it was strange, very strange, and it's breaking one of my favorite skateboards.
Pardon?
I was feeling okay.
Yeah, you were in Melbourne. All right, so now tell the point when you had a breakthrough. This was through the Northern Territory, or fear of being left there.
No, that wasn't the breakthrough.
No,
that was
that night though.
That was okay. I confronted Brian about some stuff and basically got in an argument. I was like, oh, I don't like what you're doing with me, Mom. And Brian's just like, the hell, you smoked on my pot. And I was just like, oh shit, here we go. And like, it was just this conversation. It wasn't a conversation, it was an argument. And me and my stupid mentality, I was a little prick back then. So I went to bed. I was just like, oh, it's fuming. I get woken up, crack of dawn, woken up. There's Mom. She's going, here's $50. Brian doesn't want any more of this crap on the road. There's a nice woman inside. Her name's like Ashley. She's about 22 years old. She said she'll help you up and you can work until the next bus comes in and go back to the city. Now, mind you, folks, she's about to leave me in the middle of nowhere. I was sitting in the middle of the road the night before, actually about 5 o'clock before, sitting in the middle of the road for an hour, listening to the iPod, smoking cigarettes, looking in one direction. No cars. I turned around for the second hour and faced the other direction and smoked cigarettes for another hour. No cars. Until I was bored of sitting in the middle of a bloody road, a highway, mind you, and so I went back in. This is where they were going to leave me, right? In the middle of nowhere. Nowhere. She's telling me that, oh, there'll be a bus coming through. I'm like, I've seen one in the past 24 hours. One, So I'm thinking, oh God. And I start bawling my eyes out and I'm begging.
You're on your knees.
I was on my knees and I'm like, please, for God's sakes, you can't just, I will shut my mouth. You'll never hear another word from me again. I won't even breathe. I'll breathe in a bag. Please, just, let's, and sure enough, after my begging and crying my eyes out, Mom was going to leave me there. Mom was straight up, that's her devotion to Christ right there. Ready to leave her only son in the middle of the desert, And,
you had the dog with you.
I had the dog with me, right? So that was all right. But Brian's just like, I was never going to leave you there. I'm like, Mom was! And Mom's just like, yeah, I was. Anything, Brian, I'm like, oh, jeez. Oh, Christ. So anyways, I got back into the car eventually.
Okay, well, let's hear my side. Okay, so Brian says this to me. He's got the car going. He says, I'm not taking you out. He's not going further or not. So I go, he says, go and tell him. I go, okay. So I'm walking to the car and I'm thinking about the sacrifice of Abraham. And I'm thinking, well, he was saved by the ram in the thicket. So this is going to be interesting. So I'm playing in my mind as I
just the fact that you said thinking about this is the sacrifice of Abraham. She pulls out the sheath.
You didn't have to use it, right? Now, so I'm thinking, all right, this is interesting. I just felt totally like this is a play. Literally, we are all but bit players in this movie set that's playing out. So I go and I deliver the good news to him. He's begging. So I'm looking at my son crying and begging, and I'm thinking to myself, So now I'm walking back to the car, and I said, he's crying right now, I'm begging. So he says to me, tell him to get in the car. So I go, I walk back and I say, pack up and get in the car. Well, because the night before you were, you took your time. Oh man, he was complaining, silently moaning, complaining and taking
Mind you, this is before I had any notion of a healthy work ethic, right? So, any work was...
And he was being a total shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he was in the car within minutes, and he sat in the back there, the extended cab, and said nothing for a very long time. And then he just kind of mellowed in, the occasional friendly comment and join into it, and then we got to Uluru that night. So this was the 7th of July, 2009.
We got to Uluru. We're in the backdraft.
Ayers Rock.
Ayers Rock, yeah.
Ayers Rock, yeah.
You wanted to be there for that date in time. So what happened?
Well, we were in the overdraft.
Yeah, meaning the overspill, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they say overdraft, didn't it? Because they said
Whatever.
Where? The excess.
On the edge of the desert.
Yeah, exactly. At a caravan park and, set up the tent and everything. Mom and Brian's gone to sleep. And I was sitting there and I was kind of perplexed. I had a DVD player and everything. I had all the entertainment in the world. But I was just like, fuck it. I'm going to grab one of these books. I'm going to grab one of Brian's books. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to read it. And I'm going to give it a shot. But I didn't have that thought until after I smoked a bit of cannabis, right? I smoked the last of the pot and I was like, yeah, no, forget the DVD for now. Forget everything else I've been occupying my mind with. I'll just grab this book, see where it takes me, right? Mind you, I've never written a book at this point, like an entire book from page to ending, right? So, from cover to ending. So, I open the book and I start reading it, and what's going on about all this, golfing and how to maximize your, and it was the Coriolis effect. I'm like, what the hell does this have to do with anything? So I ended up reading the whole Coriolis effect thing, and then I open up and it's like, introduction, and I'm like, damn it, So, but by that time, I'm like, all right, he's very logical in the way he thinks. That's pretty damn amazing. That makes a lot of sense, right? So then we go into it, and it took me, I think, 19 pages. I got to the 19th page where he was talking about the lunations and the masonry layers of the pyramid, and that's what just hit it on the head for me, because I had an experience when I was in year 7 of year 8 of high school. No, year 7 of high school. And what it was is I had a failing grade. I actually didn't have a failing grade. Me, Carney, and Daryl, we all had I's, which means incompletes. Means that we would have to redo that entire year because we were just so crap. So the teacher, Mrs. I can't remember what her name was, but Mrs. Rollo, she goes, all right, boys, there's a new subject coming up. If you can smash it, I might be able to give you a passing grade, which is like a C, right? And we were like, oh, okay. But she was like under the influence that we were juvenile delinquents and we wouldn't amount to anything in life. That's what she literally told us, right? Because we were the 3 dickheads of the classroom. So, and actually, no, it was us asking her what the next subject was. We were like, all right, if that's the way you view it, what's the next subject? And she said, Egypt. And I was like, all right, guys, let's smash it. Now, kids were taking home a project and doing a project a week. We did 3 a day. We went in, we asked her, we said, can we leave the classroom? It's too distracting, right? Because we were making everybody laugh. We were the class clowns. We said, can we leave the classroom, go to the empty one across there? And she's like, thinking that we're going to all dick around. We're like, no, we're gonna smash it. We went in and we made models, we made pyramids, we made absolutely, irrigation systems, all that. We did the whole lot. We did 3 a day each, right? And she ended up giving us a passing grade. We all got like B minuses, right? Or B plus. And she's like, I would have given you an A if you attended class, because we'd come into, a few classes a week, but we were smashing it, right? Like, why be there if, the project you're supposed to do for that week, you've already done 3 of them, you don't need to be there. You got your passing grade. So, and she was really impressed by it. And then, of course, after that, she was like, so, are you going to carry on doing it? We're like, no, we just want to prove you wrong. But the thing was, that subject was so intriguing to me, the mystery behind the pyramid. Right? Because they're going, oh, the Egyptians built the pyramids, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at all the hieroglyphs on absolutely everything, even little trinkets like this, hieroglyphics on it. And yet, the pyramid, not a single hieroglyphic on the outside or the inside of it. And they're trying to tell me that. And so I was thinking in class, I'm like, God, there's so much mystery behind this shit. This is in the middle of the desert, for God's sakes. How the hell did they do this all the way back then? You cannot tell me it was with a bunch of ropes and slings and pulleys and, get the hell out of here, right? So, and that was always a great, mystery to me. And and after that, later on in life, I'd always looked at different theories, the alien theory and, all these different theories about how the pyramids were built. Nothing really resonated with me until I got to the 19th page, and that's what cut it in half. That's what just split the stone right down the middle. And, it was like a kick to the face. Realizing that was really, and that was it. That's what really threw it into me.
Turned the page.
Yeah. This man had just explained everything I had wondered about the pyramid, and there was no doubt in my mind that's exactly what it was, because everything else I had exhausted, and like everything, and also. How I knew it was it is because it was so completely foreign to what everybody else out there was saying. This was fresh. This was absolutely, this dude's got he's got like a spirit guide or something, right? That's what I was thinking. That's what I'm thinking at page 12, I'm like, this dude's got a spirit guide or some sort, right? He's doing some channeling or some shit. He's probably, because I had that dream as well. Oh, I forgot about the dream that I had about Brian, right? Before the whole belief system, right? This is another thing that all of you folk need to get over. I had a dream about Brian. This was the dream. I'm standing there, post-apocalyptic world. It's red skies, there's blood on the fucking floor, there's shipping containers, right? There's one that says 666. I go up to the shipping container, I open it. Flies and the stench of death, right, comes flying in. I'm like, oh my God. And then I see this low light coming down this tunnel, and like, this is a big shipping container, and there's stairs going down, there's this low light. I start walking down the stairs. What do I see? I see a nice big circle. There's Brian in the middle of the circle, goat's horns, red eyes, sitting there. And he's passing a cup of goat's piss to everybody, and they're all taking a drink, right? And I'm watching as it's happening, his eyes are going red, and he opens his mouth, and he just goes, bah! and everything starts shaking, right? And then I see this black doctor, and he's up at the top, and he's just like lobbing heads, and they're falling down the stairs past my feet. And they're rolling into the circle of the people as Brian's like, oh! Heads rolling in the middle of the circle, man's lobbing heads off, bodies are building up. I can't get out of the shipping container anymore because there's bodies piled up past the door. I'm looking at mom's like, oh! Red eyes. And I woke up screaming, like, oh! And I remembered it so vividly. Abby doesn't believe in him because of a look. Fucking look.
Now, I remember you telling me that dream. We were in the Bradman outhouse.
I remember her response, that is from the enemy. I'm like, yeah, Brian,
Because we were about to go, we were about to go to New Guinea. No, wait on, you were back. You weren't around when we went to New Guinea the first two times.
No.
Anyway, whatever. I just said that is from the enemy of your soul.
Yeah.
It was to prevent you. Hello, so.
This time I'm just looking at Mom and I'm imagining the cup. And I'm just, there's the Kool-Aid, Mom.
Oh dear.
Oh,
wait,
Lord.
I've got to see how much time we've got left. We'll have to continue this until next show. We've got 3 minutes.
Well, so we'll end it at right at my point of belief, really.
Yeah.
It started my belief, and because at that age I was absolutely riddled with demons and parasites and whatnot, whatever you want to call it. From then on, it wasn't easygoing. It was still a struggle. And like, this is one thing I've always said to Mom is, you know, all you followers out there, when you really find Brian and understand and believe and know it, right, your whole life changes. But the thing is, me and Ma have been looking for God on the earth my entire life, my entire comprehension of knowing what religion and God is. We've been looking for God on the earth as a man. So when I found Brian, I was just like, yeah, okay, nothing changes. I always knew I was going to find him, so nothing changed my circumstances. I found God. Cool. Everyone else is like, I found God. Everything's changed. I found God, and I'm like, cool. What does that change my situation? I'm still fucked. I'm serious. This is how I felt, and it was kind of depressing, you know. And not many people can say that they found God, and it was depressing. It's like, yeah, I literally felt. But you know, of course, in that morning, you know, he remembers what I said. I woke up and I walked up to him, I shook his hand, and I said, "You bastard, you really are the Christ, aren't you?" And he was just like,
No, you gave me a hug.
yeah, I gave you a hug.
because I walked
I
up and
said,
you were
no
like,
tongue.
oh, dear.
I already knew it, you wasn't telling me nothing.
Oh, Lord.
But some people are easy, some a little bit more difficult. You're in the sort of grey area of being difficult to handle. So this is a piece of cake. Eh? This little arsehole thinks he knows it all. He's just locked into the wrong guy here. He's mine.
It was probably you that like threw that little bit of pot and just put the book next to it. A little suggestive theme there. Just. You know?
Look, wait, how about we end? No, let's end here, and then we'll start the next session,
Okay.
and we'll talk about the adventures through the Northern Territory, because you've got the Tracy, we've got the police at Rebecca's Plate, all of those
we
things.
got so many
And
things.
going into the, what was it, Port Augusta, the police station. And,
All right, we'll end it here.
Yeah,
I'll stop
so
this
end it
and
here.
then we'll start again.
And is Joel up yet?